that time of the year again, and we are so excited to have this opportunity to speak with those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for their wonderful schools. And starting us off this year is the fantastic Miss Jessica Sauer, who's the wonderful Teacher of the Year at Allapattah Flats K-8 School. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me here.
We also have the very dynamic Miss Anna Rodriguez, who's the awesome principal there as well. Anna, welcome.
Thank you.
It is such a joy for us to have this opportunity to talk to everyone and introduce the fabulous teaching staff that we have here in St. Lucie Public Schools to our viewing audience. So at this time, Ms. Sauer, what I'm going to ask you to please do is introduce yourself, tell us what grades you're teaching, the subjects that you may teach, and basically how many years you've been teaching.
Well, I've been in St. Lucie County for 7 years. I moved down here from upstate New York, and I started off teaching a third grade inclusion room, and now I'm at Allapattah Flats teaching a self-contained I&D unit.
And what college did you attend, and what certifications do you hold?
I went to Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York, and I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in childhood education.
It's kind of cold up there, isn't it?
Oh, it's cold right now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When you're in a self-contained classroom, you have many subjects that you teach with students. Briefly tell us what some of those subjects are, and then tell us what your favorite subject is and why.
Well, I have a classroom with grades kindergarten through 5th grade.
Wow.
So I'm teaching all of the academic areas, math, reading, science, social studies, and life skills as well. My favorite would have to be life skills because not only do they need those in the classroom, but they need them outside as well.
I like to think that not only lessons in learning, but lessons in living. How do we cope? How do we get along? What skills do we need besides the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s
Correct.
to help us survive in the world as well? Now we know that in this day and time, all students are basically born with some form of technology in their hands. How do you infuse technology in your classroom for learning and for those life skills development?
I'm very fortunate to have a smart board in my classroom, which is basically a big computer screen. And the kids can come up there and interact with the smart board and move pieces all over the board, play games on it that are academic learning.
Is your smart board like a touch screen when you say?
Correct.
Okay. So it's like a big movie screen for our viewers. A movie screen. In the old days with me, a projector screen.
Yeah.
But this one is interactive with students.
Kind of like an iPad, but like 10 times bigger.
10 times bigger. Awesome, awesome. You're a teacher, you've been here for 7 years. You moved here from the very cold New York area with the school in Syracuse. Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? Or when did you decide, if not?
I always knew I wanted to work with children. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but when I got into 3rd grade, I had a teacher that I adored, and from then on, I just knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Tell us about that teacher that inspired you.
She was just always very caring and compassionate. She showed that she cared for all of us and that learning can be fun.
Ms. Rodriguez, we've got to get you involved into this conversation as well. And again, just in case some of our viewers don't know you, would you please introduce yourself or give us a little bit about your educational academic background?
I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, so I came here right after high school, and I attended FAU, Florida Atlantic University, where I finished my bachelor's in education. I always wanted to be a teacher. And after that, I went back to get my master's in leadership, and that's how I ended up being the principal of Allapattah Flats.
When you started teaching, what grade or subjects did you teach?
I taught 5th grade for a year, math, and then I was a 3rd grade teacher at White City Elementary, which I loved. I was there for about 8 years, and then I became an assistant principal.
Now, you have the pleasure of basically visiting Mrs. Sawyer's class each and every day. When you visit her classroom, tell us, what is it that you hear? What is it that you see? What does it make you feel when you visit her awesome room?
When I go into Miss Sauer's classroom, children are just happy to be there. You can tell that they feel very safe to be there. And that is so important with her population of students. She is so respectful of every single one of their personalities and their needs. She's very caring. You can hear her speaking to them in a way that that students respond very positively, that they're not afraid to take risks. And we know that learning sometimes can be all about taking those risks and making mistakes. And she, again, is just very respectful. The way she responds to them is always very nurturing.
To be the teacher of the year, that person is involved in all aspects of the campus, not just in their classrooms. They do things that help make the school work.
Mm-hmm.
What other activities is Mrs. Sawyer involved in at school?
Mrs. Sauer participates in committees like Sunshine Committee, PBS Committee, which is our behavior discipline kind of program. And she works with fundraisers. She also works closely with PTO. And it's always all with a focus on students. She'll do anything. She'll go above and beyond to support students.
Okay, Ms. Sauer. When you're the teacher of the year for the school, possibly teacher of the year for the school district, we call on you to motivate, to speak, to share with many others. What advice would you give to, let's say, a first-year teacher or a new teacher to St. Lucie County to help them be the best teacher that they could be?
To never be afraid to ask for help. There's so many people in your building, in the school district, that you can reach out to. If you have questions or concerns or you need support in your classroom, don't be afraid to ask. There's no problem with asking for help.
In addition to that, when we look at our quality learning framework, DQ5 is all about engagement. Basically getting students involved into the lesson and the teacher becoming more of a facilitator for learning. How do you use DQ5 and what aspects of DQ5? How do you engage students?
I have to use a lot of different things in my classroom because my students have all different types of disabilities and capabilities. So I use a lot of manipulatives and musical things to get them up and out of their seats. You'd be surprised what some of these students are memorizing through songs. I also use the smart board, as said before, to really get them up and out of their seats.
Tell me a little bit more about the music thing. You know, that perked my ears because I believe that when you look at our educational career in kindergarten, first and second grade, there's a lot of singing, which is music. There's a lot of doodling, which is art. You know, there's a lot of movement, which is dance. So how do you, tell us a little bit more about how you use music for learning?
For instance, there's a video on the internet for sentence structure. And there's a song that I play every day for my students so that they know how to start a sentence, how to end a sentence. And it's just a very cute song that they've memorized.
And that's awesome. This is your 7th year teaching. Of course, you evolve over the years. You learn more, you do more, you expose to more. You have more tools in your bag. Is there something new or exciting that you are incorporating this year in learning?
Well, I'm trying to be more patient with not just calling on the first person, raising their hand, because I know that there's a lot of capabilities in my room, so it might take a student a little bit longer. So I've been timing myself a little bit with relaxing and not just jumping on the first hand in the classroom.
Employing a little bit more wait time so that other students can process and understand that they have information that could very well answer the questions that are posed to them at the time. Back to you, Ms. Rodriguez. Again, you have the opportunity to see her each and every day. Describe Ms. Sauer using 3 adjectives for me. And tell me why.
She's definitely an advocate for students. She's their voice. She has students who have communication problems, and she gets to know them so very well so that she can speak for them. When we have events in school, she makes sure her students are included in every single way. So an advocate, definitely. She's also very reflective. I can always talk to Ms. Sauer, give her feedback, and she takes that and she runs with it. You know, she reflects upon it. She'll ask questions, like she said before, and then she'll put something into action. And the last one would be, she's definitely hardworking. She'll do whatever it takes, within the classroom, outside the classroom. Something that she does outside school is she participates in walks and fundraisers and things like that because she wants to develop awareness. So her impact is not just within those four walls, but outside too.
Advocating for students, reflecting on teaching and learning, and just hardworking, making sure the job gets done. Those are characteristics of a teacher of the year. You know,
Thank you.
We talked about how you engage students. We also talked about what advice you would give to a brand new teacher. But in the profession that we're in, we have to often conference with parents. What advice would you give to a parent to help them ensure that their child is a success?
I'm a firm believer that for them to succeed in the classroom, the parents need to be involved at home as well. So what we do in school needs to be reinforced at home. And if we have a partnership with each other, they're going to be successful.
Let's deviate just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about you. Tell me, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I have to go back to third grade. That Christmas, I asked Santa for a teaching kit I saw in a magazine, and it had like a chalkboard and report cards and a pointer. And ever since that Christmas, I got it. I was playing school with my neighbors.
I think most teachers actually played school with their neighbors or with their siblings in some form or fashion. When will you know you are a success?
I believe that educators and all of us are a success every day. It's the little things that are a success in my classroom. A student holding a pencil or learning how to sit in a seat, that just shows me that I am a success.
When you're in your classroom and you're developing academic skills with your students as well as life skills, living skills, social skills, how do you help them prepare to be career and or college ready for life outside of the classroom?
I have to give them the outlook and the positive outlook that they can do something out after school. They can go to college. With my type of students, I don't think there's enough looking for the future for them outside of school.
Ms. Rodriguez, again, let me ask you this. What makes Mrs. Sauer the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year at Alapata Flats, but most so possibly for St. Lucie Public Schools?
I think the fact that she's been chosen by her peers, we're talking about 120 employees chose her because, again, that impact, it goes beyond what a regular teacher does every day. So that to me speaks volumes of her teaching style, her teaching results, and the difference that she makes in the lives of these students. She loves teaching. You can see that by the way she talks about her students and her families. So I think she would represent St. Lucie very well.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us about your wonderful Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Sauer?
We're very proud, and I just feel very fortunate to have her at my school.
Thank you.
I'm sure Alapata Flats is a wonderful place. Just a couple more questions for you as we come to a close. What fuels you every day?
Seeing my students, seeing their capabilities inside my classroom. Not many people in my position or in general really know what it's like to be in a self-contained classroom and what these students really are capable of doing.
As a teacher, each and every year we grow, we learn more, we go through professional development, we experience things, and in that learning, we begin to evolve, as I mentioned earlier. And as you have grown, what is it that you know for sure?
That I love teaching.
I think we all do, and I think it's evident, which is why you are the Teacher of the Year. Finish this phrase for me. The world needs
more love and compassion for students with disabilities.
Well, it is apparent through your selection as Teacher of the Year that you demonstrate that love and that passion, that you're an advocate for those students, that you are very reflective and you're hardworking. And I want to let you know that teaching is the choicest profession because everybody who is anybody was taught how to be somebody by a teacher. Thank you, and to Mrs. Rodriguez for sharing with us
Thank
and
you.
letting us
Thank
introduce you to our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
And at this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show the wonderful Miss Vanessa Piquera, who's the awesome Teacher of the Year for Bayshore Elementary School. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure to have you joining us. And she's joined by the very dynamic Miss Siobhan Silas, who's the awesome assistant principal there. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It is such an honor for the school district to have this opportunity to share the wonderful teachers with all of our viewers. So at this time, would you please just give us a little bit about your background? Make sure you tell us what subjects you teach and what grade you're teaching as well.
Okay, I'm Vanessa Piquera. I teach at Bayshore Elementary in 3rd grade. I graduated from Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, and I have my bachelor's in kindergarten through 6th grade and my ESOL endorsement.
ESOL endorsement as well. When you're teaching all of those subjects throughout the day, what's your favorite subject and why?
I would have to say math, which is crazy because I didn't like math growing up, but it's just there's a lot of different activities that you can do with it, a lot of fun games, and this students just really enjoy it in my class this year, so it's just really fun to teach math.
And how long have you been teaching?
This is my 11th year teaching.
11th year.
Yes.
So there's a lot that has happened in 11 years. Tell me, what's your favorite part of teaching?
My favorite part of teaching is definitely seeing that the students are understanding something and getting something, and their excitement of just wanting to learn something new, or telling me, can we learn what we did yesterday? Can we do that, fun, dance or song or activity? And it's exciting to see their excitement.
Now, you made me perk up just a little more when you said dance. So what that tells me is that you are incorporating the arts into your learning. So how are we dancing to learn in Mr. Carroll's class?
That's so funny. I grew up dancing, so that's just part of my life. We do a lot of different activities, brain breaks throughout the day. We do move-it activities in math where they might do a couple different activities with multiplication or division, and then it will stop and we'll do like a little dance in between, and then we'll continue learning and then stop and dance again. So those are really fun for them to do.
I mentioned earlier that when we start an academic career for children, there's a lot of singing, which is music. There's a lot of doodling, which is art. There's a lot of movement, which is dance. Because you are incorporating the arts into your learning, why do you think that is important, that movement, those stops and those breaks for students learning?
Just to get them engaged again. It's a long time for their little minds to sit there and soak in everything. So it's good to have those little breaks and fun in between to get them motivated again.
Do you find that it re-energizes?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Okay. Miss Silas,
Yes.
it's indeed a pleasure to have you joining us as
Thank
well.
you.
And you're sitting over there patiently waiting as a
I'm agreeing with
wonderful
her.
assistant principal and agreeing with Mrs. Piquera. Introduce yourself just in case there's some viewers that don't know who you are as well.
I'm Siobhan Silas. I've been at Bayshore as assistant principal for 2 years now.
Prior to Bayshore?
Prior to Bayshore, I was an instructional partner for the district office, and prior to that, I was at St. Lucie West K-8, 6th grade reading teacher, and prior to that, I was at C.A. Moore, 2nd and 3rd grade teacher.
And where did you matriculate? What schools did you attend?
I attended FAU and IRSC.
Another FAU person. Go Owls, right? I'm
Yes,
one
yes,
as well.
me too,
I'm one as
me
well.
too.
So
Yes.
go Owls. Ms. Becerra, again to you. Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you decide?
Oh, definitely. I've always known since I was little. Second grade was my absolutely most favorite teacher, and she definitely inspired me. I wanted to be just like her. So even then, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Growing up, playing school with my friends, as I'm sure many teachers have when they were younger. So I always knew.
So what did that second grade teacher do to inspire you?
Oh, Mrs. Krupnicki. I just loved her. She made me feel like I was a favorite to her, and I feel like she made every student feel that way, and I think that's really important for every kid to feel like they are that important. She was fun, and we did so many awesome things. She really, I mean, to this day, she's who I think about when I think of teaching.
So how do you see Ms. Krupnicki's daily instruction in your daily instruction?
I think about her a lot, actually. Thinking of back then, I still remember sitting on the carpet, learning multiplication, and I wasn't paying attention at all. I wasn't listening to anything she said. And there was a time where we had to do our independent work, and I remember pretending to scratch my head to copy the person next to me. And she noticed, and she said, Vanessa, do I need to go over that again? And she did, and then I got it right away. And so now when I see students kind of doing the same thing, it reminds me of then.
These students that we're teaching today are basically born with some form of technology in their hand. How do you infuse technology for learning into your daily instruction?
We do a lot of technology. The students go on iReady on the computers every day during center time. I also have Kindles as well in centers where my lower performing students might use it for decoding or phonics, or my higher students will use it for comprehension. I use my document camera a lot for modeling. Being in third grade, a lot of close reading strategies that I'll do on my document camera. And I also have a smart board, which is awesome for my students because I'm in an inclusion classroom, so they can get up there and move things around, and it works really well with them.
So the smart board is basically like a big iPad.
Yes,
and
a
it's
touch
interactive
screen.
touchscreen.
Yes.
Yeah. For our viewers. As a teacher of the year, you're often held to a standard where you have to speak or present to new persons on your campus and possibly for the school district. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
Just be patient. Don't give up. There's definitely going to be times where you're going to feel stressed and you want to go home and cry. And there's going to be many days like that. And just know that there's other people that are there to support you. Don't be afraid to ask them for help. We've all been in that same boat. And just don't give up. Just keep going.
We often call on you to be our voice for the school and possibly for the school district. What advice would you give to parents to help ensure that they help make their child a success?
Just to be there for your child, listen to them, not always, academically, but in their daily life, ask them how their school day was, what was their favorite game that they played at PE that day, what new book are they reading, just be with them and talk to them. And I feel like, with the parent and the student relationship comes with a strong teacher relationship, and then we can make a successful gains with the child having those relationships.
Ms. Silas, you have the wonderful opportunity of visiting Ms. Becerra's room each and every day. When you visit that classroom, tell me, what is it that you hear? What is it that you see? How does it make you feel?
Well, some things that I see is Becerra really making those connections with the students. She's asking those questions. She's waiting, giving students that wait time. She's letting them grapple with the content, which is not always easy. Stepping in her position is not always easy because having students wait out and really think about what they're learning. She does that with the students. So I see her communicating with the students, making sure that they're engaged. Like I said, making sure students are processing the content. What I hear, that's what I hear. What I see is students raising their hands, they're turning and talking with each other, and she's walking around, modeling, making sure that they're, staying on task. her room is beautifully decorated, much detail, visuals around, so, you know, for the students that may need a little bit of help, support, they can easily, you know, look around the room and get some assistance.
Ms. McCara, DQ5 in our Framework for Quality Instruction is all about engagement. How do you actively engage students so that they're doing what Ms. Silas just said, turning and talking and working together?
Just those things, a lot of interaction, partner talking, movement, like we said, dance, music. Even sometimes a story, telling the students a story about myself or relating it back to them in some way really gets them to want to learn the particular topic, knowing that they have some kind of connection.
Ms. McCara, after 11 years, we all grow, we all develop, we all learn something. There's something new in our toolkit. Is there something new and or exciting that you're working on this year?
Third grade. I've always been a primary teacher.
Okay.
I taught first grade and second grade. This is my first year teaching, you know, an intermediate testing grade. It's definitely new. It's exciting. It's you know, at times there's a lot of difficulties that I have to face. Miss Silas is an awesome mentor. I go to her a lot. So definitely teaching third grade is new. It's exciting. It's new. So I'm getting used to that this year.
Ms. Silas, please describe Ms. McCara using 3 adjectives for me and tell me why.
Okay, think. This is easy. First, I would say creative. Like I said before, when you walk into her room, it's like a dreamland, something you see on Pinterest, or, you know, she has the organization of the materials and what the students need right there, ready for them. She has a little runner on her desk that's color-coded with the room. Everything is in its place, and the students appreciate that because it's organized. She has her small groups numbered as far as the students are numbered as well on their desks. So it's just, the transitions are impeccable there, you know. So I would first say creative. The colors, the design. I mean, you walk into a room and you just have to sit there and just look at everything because it's just so beautiful. Then I would say compassionate. The way she interacts with her students is something that we all want for our teachers and students. The communication skills. She's the first one to email me if there's a problem, big or small, in her classroom, whether it's, you know, like I said, she needing support or the students that need support, or if she's having some difficulties with students, discipline, whatever, she will reach out. So that shows the compassion and the desire, you know, that she has for her students to be the best that they can be. And lastly, I would say, creative, compassionate, and collaborative. Like Ms. McCara has said, this is her first year in third grade. And this, you know, it's a team effort. And I'm one to say, what's my big thing? Teamwork makes the dream work. And I say it all around campus. And seeing her in collaborative planning, if she has a question, she asks. She also gives ideas. Well, this is what I used to do in second grade, or this is what I did last year. Maybe we can try this, put this kind of spin on it. So she is one that truly collaborates with her team members.
Creative, compassionate, and collaborative descriptors of all teachers of the year. So thank you for that work. So, Ms. Silas,
yes.
Tell us quickly, what makes her the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
She is who she is. I would say just those 3 descriptors would make her the perfect candidate. Her compassion for students, her desire to want the best for them. Like I said, she's not just teaching students. It's not just a Teacher of the Year. When you're educating the whole child, then that's what makes you Teacher of the Year. That sets you apart because it's not just about educating the child. We want to support the whole child.
So, Ms. McCara, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I have to say, in second grade, with my teacher, Mrs. Krupnicki, that's when I decided I wanted to teach. I'd go home and pretend I was her.
So what fuels you each and every day?
The students, opening my door in the morning and seeing their smiling faces, come in. Having previous students come back and visit, emailing me, coming to me, saying to me that was their favorite teacher, that is what fuels me.
What impact do you see you having on a child's ability to be career and or college ready in third grade?
It's with such a young age, just small goals, setting goals, teaching them that you could reach these little milestones, and that will help them to make bigger goals, such as college in the future.
When I hear those descriptors, and I continue to go back to those: creative, collaborative, and compassionate, I also hear a thirst for learning in you as well. So I'll leave you with the words of John J. Chapman when he said, "The gift of teaching is a peculiar talent and implies a need and a craving in the teacher herself." I want to thank you, Ms. Salas and Ms. Piquera, for joining us on our Teacher of the Year Spotlight. But also, I'm going to have to thank Ms. Krupnicki because she gave you she inspired you. Thank you for joining us, and best wishes to you throughout the year.
Thank you so much.
You made her college years possible, opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
And at this time, we want to introduce you to the fabulous Teacher of the Year for Longwood Elementary School, Miss Elizabeth Fisher. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
And she brought along with her the very dynamic Tracy Wilkie, who's the wonderful principal at Longwood Elementary.
Good morning.
And I know we're celebrating your Teacher of the Year, but I also have to let our viewers know that you're also the Principal of the Year for our school district as well, Miss Wilkie.
That is correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But back to you, Miss Fisher.
Thank you.
Just in case we have some viewers that don't know who the wonderful Elizabeth Fisher is, would you please kind of give us a little bit about your background?
I've been in St. Lucie County for nearly 20 years. I moved here from New Jersey. I did my undergraduate study at Rider University. I moved on and got my master's at Walden University, and my focus was on reading and math. And I'm currently back enrolled for my ed leadership, and I'm going the specialist route. So there you have it.
And where are you currently enrolled?
At Walden again.
At Walden again, okay. Now tell me, what are you currently teaching at Longwood?
Currently the literacy coach. My grades are second and third grade, and that's who I primarily work with. I do branch out K to 5th if needed.
But what does that entail, being the literacy coach?
Standards-based instruction, backwards design. We look at standards. We make sure teachers, students, they're getting the scope of what the standard really means, making sure the resources align, and making sure that each and every teacher has what they need to be successful in the classroom.
And the literacy part basically entails everything that centers around the reading and in that kind of instruction.
Social studies, science, writing, reading, and sometimes math.
Okay, okay. From teacher to coach, all one in my mind. But what's your favorite part about being the coach?
The fact that I can be a needs assessor. I really like to look at the scope of every grade level that I work with in the classroom and out and see what we need. And whatever that is that's what I'm going to bring to the table. And that's what my strength is. I've been told if sometimes they don't know what they need, and I can bring it to the table, and they're like, that's what I needed. That's how I can make the magic happen in my classroom.
So through collaboration and working collegiately with our colleagues, being the needs assessor, that means you do a lot of listening as well as a lot of watching, and then help develop a plan, am I?
Yes, mostly I look for a root cause, what's going on, and how we can get the most leverage for what's going on in the classroom. How we can make sure that where the students need to be, how we're going to get them there. The process, really looking at the process and making sure that it all aligns to the end result.
As a literacy coach, we know that these students were basically born with some form of technology in their hands.
Yes.
How do you help teachers infusing technology into their instruction to help these students move along that process, that continuum that you also spoke about?
Each and every lesson that we design with technology in mind. Most recently, every launch that we have for every introduction has some technological piece to it, whether it's a video launch, whether it's music for engagement, whether it's a Q&A. answering and asking questions in digital form. We don't have a lot of technology in the hands of students, but they use their hands as their technology. So as they're viewing and watching, they're interacting with what's going on.
Now, Ms. Fisher, you know you can't talk to an old band director and talk about music and not see him spark up. Tell us how you help teachers incorporate music into instruction.
Most recently, we were doing a point of view lesson, and we pulled out a Katy Perry video with some music, and we just played the background music, and we had the words in front of them, and they helped guide us through that piece of music. And then they had to draw illustrations next to it to tell us what they were envisioning, because some of the words don't really mean what they say. They're metaphors or similes, and the students really had to get engaged with what they were working on.
For literacy instruction, looking at metaphors, similes, that English language learning components, and using music, but you also said pictures, which means art to me as well.
Yes.
So we just incorporated music and art into a language lesson.
The most amazing thing is that when we're designing instruction in whole group, we can bring it to small group. So anything the students haven't finished in whole group, they bring it to small group, and then we can build on it one-on-one or in small group.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
We know these kids, like I mentioned earlier, are born with some form of technology in their hand.
Yeah.
But these students like to sing, they like to dance, they like to move. And when we can incorporate those strategies into their learning strategies, because if you keep in mind, Mrs. Fisher, when we started our educational career, there was a lot of singing,
Yes.
music, A, B, C, D, E, a lot of
Everything.
yeah. So it's good we can continue to incorporate those kinds of strategies into instruction for these students. Ms. Wilkie?
Yes.
Hi, welcome. I
you.
know you've been here before and you've been in St. Lucie for a while, but just in case there's a viewer that doesn't know who the fantastic Tracy Wilkie is, would you kind of give us a little bit about your instructional background as well?
Certainly. I am currently in my 28th year in St. Lucie County. I grew up here educationally, career-wise. As a principal, 10 years. I'm in my 10th year of being a principal, and have worked at several schools throughout the district.
When you visit Mrs. Fisher and her work as a coach, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear going on?
Encouragement at the teacher level and at the student level. Constantly encouraging and fostering that belief of we can do it and we can do more and we can do better and we can keep learning. Great at looking at data, looks at teacher data with teachers and looks at the student data along with teachers, but also with students. A lot of what Liz does is really at all levels, working with parents as well, really. And in all three of those areas of working with teachers, students, and the parents, families, it's always about encouraging and mentoring and just reaching for those goals and how can we make all kids successful and feel like they've achieved everything.
Ms. Fisher, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I've always known that I wanted to work with children. Earlier, I wanted to be in the medical field, and I realized quickly that I wanted to be more of a mentor, tutor, and then education. I did some of my undergraduate work in Trenton, New Jersey, and it inspired me. Those kids came every day to the table, and they made me want to take all of my knowledge and my passion and afford them every opportunity to reach their goals. So early on, probably third grade, I knew that I wanted to work with children and make a difference in the world.
Can you point out one teacher that possibly inspired you to become an educator?
Yes, Miss Green in third grade. I moved more times than I can remember as a child. And I was not very well versed in education or what school really was. And she encouraged me to help and reach my goal of becoming a reader. Couldn't read in third grade. And every day, she had me come early, and she made me a reader. I was reading chapter books by the end of third grade because of Miss Green.
You talked about, Mrs. Wilkie mentioned about the coaching aspect, and she made a point to stress that not only are you coaching teachers, but you're coaching parents and students. What advice do you give to parents to help their children be a success?
I remind them that in the moment of frustration or worry, that this is not it. That their children are going to be successful, and it's going to be a collaboration. It's going to be all of us working together as a team. If a parent reaches out to me for something that they need, I make sure that they get it. Whether it's something as simple as tutoring opportunities or something in the community that they need, I'm a one-on-one mentor for the parents as well as the children.
As the Teacher of the Year for Longwood Elementary and possibly for St. Lucie Public Schools, you would be asked to speak to many different people at different times. What advice would you give to a new teacher to inspire them and encourage them?
Come every day with your passion. Don't take anything too personally. Love what you do and keep moving as a lifelong learner. And remember that you make a difference. Even though you may not feel it right now, you will make that difference. I have children from my very first year come back to me, and the things that they remember are not the standards, they're the moments of greatness, them meeting their goals, them being successful. And they say, well, thank you for doing that. Thank you. I have parents still coming back to me 20, 15 years later, and they say, do you remember this? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, but they do. I know that I created lifelong learners, and I help them to reach their goals.
Not the standard, but the moment. That's an awesome, awesome line. When we think about our framework for quality instruction, we know that DQ5 is all about engagement. As the coach again, how do you help teachers plan engagement for instruction?
I think that having relationships built with our students, especially in 2nd and 3rd grade, which we do have, we know them. We know what motivates them. We know that if we're talking about force and motion, it might be a fidget spinner in their hands. Bringing them into what we're doing, engaging them into the lesson so that they know that it's meaningful to them. It's real world, it's current, it's in the now.
Meaningful, relevant instruction for students.
Absolutely.
Using what's applicable to them right now to help them
even
learn.
if we don't understand it.
Some of the technology, some of the social media, yes, I understand. Ms. Wilkie, again, because you have the opportunity to see her in action each and every day, you really know who she is. Give me 3 words that will describe her and tell me why those 3 words.
Absolutely. What the driving force for Liz is her compassion. She has such compassion for for teachers, the new teacher especially, for students, for their families. That really centers her, and I think that's really what drives her. But along with that, what makes her successful is taking that compassion and partnering it with her tenacity. When she knows where we're going and the direction of the school, the direction for that individual student and family, there's no stopping her. And she brings that tenacity to everybody, along with her resilience. She is such a resilient individual, and she builds that in others. It's like, okay, we have a little bump in the road. Oh, it's all right, let's pick ourselves back up. New plan, let's put it into action, and we're good to go. No worries. And that's really Liz Fisher.
Compassion, tenacity, resilient. And really, you're the standard bearer. and that's for that reason, that's why you're the Teacher of the Year. Speaking of teaching, when did you first fall in love with teaching? You've been at it over 20 years, but when did you really first fall in love with what you're doing?
I want to say that in high school, I wasn't a teacher yet, but I did mentoring with some younger students in the local elementary school, and it was more of an after-school care, but students wanted to read to me, and they maybe couldn't decode a word or understand what a word meant for vocabulary. And when I was able to give them the tools that they needed or help guide them just a little bit to read around the word, it meant something. It gave me chills. It made me know that I wanted to do that for the rest of my life.
When will you know that you are really a success?
I think I'm not a success yet. I'm a lifelong learner. My passion is in learning. Even if I am done with my formal education, I will probably always be a reader, a successful person to the children around me, to the community around me. When I see that they are motivated to do what they have set for their successes, I feel like maybe then. But every day is a new day. I come to the table with this excitement and this passion for what I do. My family says that I'm lucky because not everybody has that, but I really do. I wake up early and I stay late and I mentor and I work and I want to make a difference. So I guess my success is in the success of all the people around me.
Mrs. Wilkie, what makes Mrs. Fisher the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
The perfect candidate.
The perfect candidate.
Well, it's her ability to build capacity within others, people. You know, she gives them so much that she really does. She gives back so much to the teaching profession. You know, some of the things that haven't come out yet here, and what we're talking about, and talking about building capacity, is she's building other teachers. Mm-hmm. You know, she has mentoring, tutoring groups throughout the school. And she's recruited from parents, community members, church members, and students, high school students. She's got students who have come back just like she started out as a teacher. So she's building capacity within others to believe in themselves, and for future educators, I believe that there are folks who are going to go into the education field because Ms. Fisher is instilling that in them.
Great. Ms. Fisher, finish this phrase for me. The world needs...
More superheroes, just like us.
And just like teachers.
Just like mentors, like teachers, like community members, people who are there for the children of our community, the superheroes, the unsung heroes.
It is so evident that it's not that you understand that we make a difference, that you understand that we make the difference in the lives of children every day, especially when you give us words like it's not the standard but the moment, because so much of your work is around the standard, but you're even more concerned about the moments that last with those students. And on behalf of all of us here in St. Lucie County, thank you for representing Longwood Elementary School as their Teacher of the Year, and the best wishes to you. And Ms. Wilkie, congratulations to you, and thank you both for joining us on our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
At this time, we're welcoming to the Teacher of the Year celebration show the wonderful Miss Vernicia Sanders, who is the Teacher of the Year for the Del Cassens Education Complex. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is so good to have you. And she's brought along with her the very dynamic and fantastic principal of Del Cassen Education Complex, Miss Ellen Harden. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Ladies, it is such a joy for us to have this opportunity to celebrate all the great work that all of our teachers are doing. And to do that, we actually spotlight the person that has been selected by their staffs to represent their schools. So, Ms. Sanders, at this time, just in case some of our viewers don't know who you are, would you just briefly introduce yourself and tell them what grades you teach and what schools you attended?
My name is Vernicia Sanders. I work at Del Cassens. I am a teacher in the multi-age accelerated program, which entails where I teach kids from the 6th through the 8th grade. My educational background, I completed my bachelor's in human services at Inner Real Estate College, and I completed my master's of psychology with a specialization in applied behavior analysis through Capella University.
Awesome, awesome. Now, you told me you teach multi-age and you're going 6 through 8. What subjects?
I teach social studies.
Social studies, social studies. So a lot of prepping and planning for those students with that multi-age. You also mentioned to me that it's the accelerated program. What exactly does the accelerated program mean?
The accelerated program means when the students walk in, if they're in the 6th grade, they'll complete 2 years in one. So from August to December, they'll complete 6th grade. When we come back in January to June 1st, they'll complete 7th grade.
So that go ahead. No.
When they walk out of our program, they'll be going into 8th grade.
So you're catching students up for their awesome.
Yes.
Now, you've been teaching over at Del Cassens, multi-age. That means you get to work with many students at many different ages and in an accelerated program, which has got to be fast-paced. What's your favorite part about teaching?
My favorite part about teaching is engaging with the students, being able to push them to the best of their ability. To see the students come in and kind of be down about being behind already, and being able to give them that push and that encouragement and support that they need to keep going and to not stop is what.
Now, you mentioned the word engagement, and I know that our framework for quality instruction, DQ5, is all about engagement. What do you do to help engage those students, especially since you mentioned that some of them are behind and you're catching up? How do you keep them enthused and engaged in learning so that they can catch up?
I try to keep them engaged by looking at their learning styles. So if I have certain kids that are more hands-on than auditory, I try to prepare my lessons geared towards that, to keep them engaged and to keep them active in the lessons.
Ms. Harden, it's a great pleasure to have you join us with you, and let's introduce you as well to our viewers, just in case some of us don't know who the fantastic Ellen Harden is.
Ellen Harden, I'm actually a product of St. Lucie County Schools. I was born in Fort Pierce and went to elementary schools and all. Came back to work here, worked at Westwood for a while as a teacher, and then decided I wanted to work with as many children as I could. And so I started in an alternative education pathway, and we started creating more programs. And currently this year, we have increased our program offerings to 4 separate programs for our children, and we are K through 12 with our student population at Dale Cassens.
And that's why it is the in total education complex.
Absolutely.
Cool. Now, you have the opportunity to work with Ms. Sanders each and every day to see the fantastic things that's going into that multi-level classroom. When you visit her classroom, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear?
I hear students asking questions. And when I see that they're eagerly looking into some topic or some activity that Ms. Sanders has prepared for them. Oftentimes their heads are together, they're doing some type of group activity, and they're plotting and planning how they're going to present it back to Ms. Sanders. So they're asking questions, they're researching on the computer, they're looking into things, and they're eager. The energy in the classroom is unbelievable. They're just eager for the next thing that she gives them.
Ms. Sanders, these students that we're working with today have basically been born with technology in their hands. How do you plan your lessons that are totally engaging to also include the infusion of technology?
As a social studies teacher, my students do a lot of research. So I use technology and the computers to engage them in researching on certain topics and finding out differences between like primary sources and secondary sources to engage more in the lessons.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I kind of did. Back in first grade, I had a teacher, Trish Cordero, first, second, and third grade. She left a huge impact on me through those years, like all the way up and through high school. I always reflected on what she taught me, not just educational wise, but just way to basically be successful in life.
Well, we're going to have to send a big shout out to Ms. Cordero for sending you our way. What advice, as the teacher of the year, we often use that person as the role model. What advice would you give to a brand new teacher to help them become a success?
The advice that I would give a brand new teacher is understand that you're going to have your days where you may not feel like you're hitting that point, but if you fall, understand that there's people around you that are going to be there to pick you up. Understand that you're not alone. That's my advice to them. You're not alone. There's always somebody there to help you, and you got to ask.
Now, Ms. Harden, to be the teacher of the year at any of our sites, teachers are not just locked in their classroom with their students. They are out helping the total operation of the school. What other activities do you see Ms. Sanders involved in?
Ms. Sanders takes the lead in a lot of roles on our campus, on and off actually. She is a true community member. She has community activities that pulls her knowledge of children in the community in. She is a team leader for our MAP program, and our MAP, our multi-age program, we added a new program this year, it's 4-5. So she took on a role to work with not only her content area teachers with social sciences, but she's also working as a lead teacher in MAP to make sure that each of our houses, her houses, MAP, they work together. brand new teachers in that setting, she is that person that won't let them fail. So she takes on that mentor role with the new teachers and makes sure that not only are they getting their lessons done on time, but if they are not having a very good day, she'll go check on them. She checks on them. In the summer, she started calling them and welcoming them into the program. So she is that mentor with her teachers as well. But she has a lot of things that she does in the community as well.
So not only helping those students be successful, mentoring them, but also mentoring the new teachers that are coming on to help them be successful, which again helps our students to be a success as well. What advice would you give to Ms. Sanders? What advice would you give to parents that you're working with to help them partner with us to ensure that their child is a success?
The advice that I would give to the parents is stay on top of your children's education by checking skyward. I look at it as when I talk to another parent, I would think how I would want to be talked to as a parent. So keeping up, getting up, encouraging them to keep up with their kids' education by checking on their grades. When they come home, asking them, are there any homework? What did you learn today? Like, give me 3 things you learned today. So those are the type of advice I would give the parents in order to stay engaged with your kids. Ask them questions about their day, what they're learning, what they're doing in school.
You're teaching multi-age level students, and you're working with those same kinds of teachers. Is there something new or exciting that you're working on this year that's really energized you as well?
What's exciting that I'm working on this year is I'm a team mom for the PAL Center, which is the Police Athletic League. It deals with kids from kindergarten all the way up into 8th grade, where they come out and they play football. So I'm very, very active and hands-on, not just in the classroom, but on the field with sports with the kids.
Same thing Ms. Harden just mentioned about your activities outside of the classroom as well that helps us move forward. So Ms. Harden, since you're there every day, describe Ms. Sanders for me using 3 words, 3 adjectives, and tell me why those 3 words.
My first word is relevant. Because to be relevant, you have to be connected. She's connected with her content because she is a true social science teacher, but she's connected in the lives of her children. Not just at school, but out in the community as well. And even when they leave us, she'll go and watch them play football. She'll go to different high schools and different events and other places and make sure that they know she's there to stay with them. So relevant is a good word to describe her. Another word is vibrant because she has so much enthusiasm and energy. She brings that to every single solitary thing that she has and does, no matter what it is. Nothing is too small for her. So that energy is very high with her. Last word, sagacious. For me, with her, she's like an old soul. So that wisdom comes out. Even though she's a young, vibrant, energetic teacher, she has the wisdom of the ages, and she brings that stability to her teachers and her classroom with her students and parents.
Relevant, vibrant, and sagacious. So tell us this, Ms. Sanders. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
Honestly, when I first walked through the door. My first day as a teacher. I've always wanted to be a teacher, but when I fell in love is when I walked in and I captured the attention of all my students. And then as time went on and I started seeing the progress that they were making and the dedication they were putting forth towards their education, that's when I fell in love with teaching.
What impact do you see yourself having on a student's ability to be college and or career ready?
At my school, we have monthly on our early release days on Wednesdays, we have where we set aside prepared lessons that gear towards college readiness and preparing them for careers, where we have people that come out and basically speak to our students about different careers that they're already holding that some of our children want to be one day. We have the Naviance program, which is dealing with technology, where they're able to go in and work on things gearing towards college.
So tell me this, what is it every day dealing with students at multi-level, multi-age, what is it that fuels you to go back in and go back in and go back in again?
Getting up each morning and going to work and pulling up in the parking lot, and I look at the parking lot and I look over and I see all my students, even the ones that aren't in my class, that greet me automatically when I come in. It just shows me that I am leaving an imprint on them. So that fuels me to see how eager they are to see me when I come through the door, and how ready they are to learn. Just keeps me going. It just lights the fire for me.
Ms. Harden, what makes Ms. Sanders the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
When you think of a teacher, you think of it's more than a profession, it's a lifelong pathway. She's an educator on and off the field, so to speak. It's 365, 24/7, no matter where she goes, no matter what she does. One of the things I think about with her is she's a Pied Piper of children. They automatically gravitate to her. They circle her. They look for her. She is pulling in the parking lot, and they can't wait to get her attention about something that they want to share with her. An educator has that aura and that intensity about them, and it's not an on-off switch. She lives it, walks it, breathes it. She is it.
When will you know that you are a success?
I think I'll know that when my kids graduate high school and keep going. So I try to stay in touch with them, even the ones that I had last year. I reach out to their teachers this year to make sure that they're still following along the path of being successful in life. So seeing my kids, my first last year kids walk that stage, like they're still being successful now, but to see them walk that stage and know I had a part in that, I think would really make me know that I'm being successful.
Ms. Harden, is there anything else that you haven't mentioned to us that you want to tell us about your fantastic Teacher of the Year?
I just think we found the right one again. You know, Dale Cassens has a reputation of having good quality educators come out and make it to the all the way. So I do believe that we're a good training ground for the high quality teachers. So I believe that Ms. Sanders is the prime example of a Teacher of the Year that will lead St. Lucie and Florida onward and upward.
Ms. Sanders, final question for you. Finish this phrase for me. I believe.
I believe that once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. It doesn't stop at the end of the year when June 1st and the summer lets out. You're going to be a teacher forever.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this Teacher of the Year celebration show, and it's evident by those three words that Mrs. Harden used to describe you, sagacious, vibrant, and relevant, that you're leaving footprints on the souls of our children, and we want to thank you for that. But we got to give a shout out to Ms. Trish Cordero, too, for sending you our way as well. So again, congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Dale Casson Education Complex. Ms. Harden, thank you for joining us again, and we wish you nothing but the best of success possible.
Thank you.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
At this time, we'd like to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show the wonderful Miss Summer Nichols, who is the awesome Teacher of the Year for Forest Grove Middle School. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and she's brought with her the very dynamic, the awesome, the wonderful Miss Monterey Miller Buchanan, who's the fantastic principal there. Miss Buchanan, welcome.
Thank you for having us here, Dr. Perry.
It is indeed a pleasure for us to be able to have you on the show as we celebrate those bright and wonderful teachers who are working with all the awesome students here in St. Lucie Public Schools. But Ms. Nichols, we know that there may be some viewers that don't know who you are, so if you would briefly introduce yourself, tell us what grades you teach, the subjects that you teach, that kind of thing.
My name is Summer Nichols. I teach 8th grade pre-algebra and geometry at Forest Grove Middle School.
How long have you been with us at Forest Grove?
This is my 6th year.
6th year? Where did you attend school?
At Indian River State College.
Okay. Are you homegrown?
Yes.
Good, good. We actually love it when our homegrown people come back to work in St. Lucie Public Schools because they grow up here, they know what we're all about. So, 6 years. Have all 6 of those years been at Forest Grove?
Yes.
Cool. So tell me, at Forest Grove for 6 years, what's become your favorite part about teaching?
My favorite part is when I get to run into my students outside of school and see how they have become successful from being in my class. And they've told me, several of them, that I have encouraged them and how well they're doing. They just want to tell me how good they're doing in high school, and Actually, this year, my very first group should be graduating high school. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
a little excited.
So that means you're going to have a lot of graduations
Yeah.
to go to and contacts made about those students. I think that is also a joyous time for all of us when we see the success that they've had after leaving the confines of our four walls. When we think about the students that you're teaching today, they come into this world with some form of technology in their hands. In teaching math, upper level math at that, how do you infuse the use of technology in instruction?
Well, I use a smart board a lot with my instruction, and I occasionally have the students interact with it. I'm new to the Kahoot game, or educational activity, that the students really are enjoying. I've only used it once or twice, but I'm trying to get more into it. There are some websites, I can't think of the name of them right now, that show on the coordinate plane for the geometry and the pre-algebra, just to let them see things that maybe they can't feel, you know.
Okay, that hands-on, making it applicable.
Right.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes, sir.
introduce yourself to our viewers just in case someone does not know you.
Mona Ray Buchanan. I am the proud principal at Forest Grove Middle School. This is my first year, and I am honored to be here with Miss Summer Nichols. I know her quite well, even though I've only been with her for half of the year. But she would and is my #1 selection for a lot of different reasons. So I'm very happy that she is our Teacher of the Year.
Ms. Buchanan, when you visit Ms. Nichols' class, you get to see the excitement and the joy that's going on. Briefly tell us, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear when you are in her math class?
Ms. Nichols takes the time to ensure that all students are learning. She definitely chunks that information, but the check-in for understanding, I really believe that is her #1 most important aspect of her teaching, and it is the quality that I admire the most about her in terms of her pedagogical strength. She definitely takes the time to ensure that students, even though they learn in different ways, are grasping the information that she is presenting. And she does so through various techniques. And her class is therefore very engaging. Students know that if they have questions, it's okay to ask. And she's also one of those teachers, she'll stay after school, she'll do whatever it takes outside of the boundaries of the classroom to ensure every child understand what's going on in that classroom.
Ms. Nichols, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No.
Oh, when did you discover that this was your calling?
I actually was later to going to college, but once I started college, I kind of, I don't know, I've always loved math, for sure, and I've learned that I was actually pretty good at teaching math, so that's the point. I was about 26 when I decided that I wanted to go into teaching.
Well, because you have been selected as the Teacher of the Year, I'm going to tell you that we're glad that you decided to join our ranks. As a Teacher of the Year, you're often called upon to have conversations with new teachers to help motivate them or inspire them. What advice would you give to those new teachers?
Just stick to it and keep going and try your best and don't give up, because sometimes it can be a little straining those first couple of years.
In the same vein, you're often used to speak to parents. As a teacher, you're naturally having to conference with parents about the success of students. What advice would you give to parents? To help them ensure that their child is a success at all levels.
Just kind of work with them and keep them motivated, help build their confidence.
When we think about our framework for quality instruction, we know that DQ5 is all about engagement. And when we can capture students, they tend to perform better. How do you plan engagement into your daily math instruction?
I try to start with something to kind of hook them in, to get them interested in what we're doing. And as much as possible, I try to do some hands-on things to get them actively and sometimes competitively working on assignments.
Ms. Buchanan.
Yes, sir.
Because you have an opportunity to visit that classroom each and every day, you see the wonderful things that's going on in the room. But we also know that to be the teacher of the year, teachers do many things outside the scope of those four walls that we call their classroom. What other activities would we see Ms. Nichols involved in that actually help Forest Grove function?
Well, one of our goals this year at Forest Grove is to get out in the community. And I actually had the opportunity to volunteer Thanksgiving break with Ms. Nichols at Brigades Hearts.
Big Heart Brigade.
Big Heart Brigades. And it's really funny because when I went there, she was already hands-on, stuffing turkeys, and with a smile on her face. And there we were over Thanksgiving break, packing up, stuffing turkeys, packing up boxes, getting ready to help those in our community who, without that, would not have a Thanksgiving meal. Miss Nichols is, and one of the things I always say is she doesn't say no, but she takes the kids outside of the boundaries of the school and she shows them what's going on out there, and so they're not just thinking about themselves and their needs, but they could also help others and see that other people and students out there are struggling, and that gives them a more global perspective of what's going on in the world. So that to me is very, very important, and she's just that role model for her students because she just doesn't stay and supervise. We are out there hands-on helping, and that is admirable in every way.
Ms. Nichols, you told me that you came to the profession a little later and that you did not originally know that you wanted to be a teacher, but then found that you were good at math and teaching math. So when would you say that you fell in love with teaching?
I would have to say it's when I ran into one of my first year students, and he had told me that I told him that he was capable of doing something. It was something to do with a math problem, and he said, I told him that you can do this, you know, and he said, and I believed you, and I did really good that year, and I got into algebra the next year, and then I had seen him at the St. Lucie County Fair, and he was at Westwood, and he was in the FFA club and doing things, and every year I see him, and he keeps telling me how, you know, how much of an impact I made in his life, and I really didn't realize it. That was my first year teaching. I was a little was struggling a little bit, but those moments really are my favorite, and they make my heart melt.
When will you know that you are a success?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I just do my best every year. I try to do better than the year before. I don't know that I can actually reach my level of success as far as my opinion goes, but I'll just keep trying to get better every year.
Ms. Buchanan, describe Ms. Nichols for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why those 3.
Well, I said it before, altruistic. She thinks about others before even herself. Ambitious. She goes above and beyond, and whatever task that she is asked to do, the results are exemplary. And third is she's passionate. Within the classroom, you can tell she loves what she's doing. It's contagious, if you ask me. When I go to Ms. Nichols' classroom when I just need a little time out for myself. And I can assure you, when I'm in that classroom, the kids, they see that she loves what she's doing. And so they want to learn, they want to make her proud, and they want to also achieve as much as they can. And I mean, the results have shown that. I mean, the kids are doing well. 100% of our geometry kids passed last year. You're doing amazing. But those 3 adjectives, altruistic, passionate, and absolutely, absolutely, she has shown that she goes above and beyond.
Okay, those 3 adjectives sum it all up. So because of that, and with a 100% pass rate on the geometry exam, you didn't tell me that. Thank you for sharing that information. How do you see what you do every day impacting a student's ability to be college and or career ready?
Well, I mean, on top of teaching math, I do try to teach them responsibility, organization, and, you know, constantly reminding them of the things that they're going to need for high school, which is right before they get ready for thinking about college. But I always try to help them, I don't know, be kind of independent as far as their education so they can be responsible for their own learning.
So what is it that fuels you every day?
Well, definitely my family. Every day I just want to get up and do everything I can to make my family's life better and be a helpful asset to my family.
Mrs. Buchanan, so what makes Ms. Nichols the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
If a student has a problem outside of the classroom, who's your person that you can talk to? Her name will be the first to be said. And that speaks for itself, because beyond the classroom, she is sought after for counseling, for advice. She is I would say, the mama hen, because all students respect her and all students like her and admire her, because she is that person that they want to talk to. She is that mentor for them.
Thank you for being such a great mentor. When we think about teaching, what do you think for you will actually be the soul of education?
The caring, the nurturing, because I mean, it's not always the subject you teach. It's the nurturing and helping the child be confident and know that they can learn and be successful in life.
Ms. Buchanan, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to share with us about Ms. Nichols?
I believe Ms. Nichols is obviously quite humble. She has a spirit that I've seen at Forest Grove, where she definitely wants everyone on board. She's about the team. Whether in the classroom or outside of the classroom, she is about making things happen. And I can say having her on board at my school has definitely been a huge support for a new principal. So thank you, Ms. Nichols, for all that you do. I really do appreciate you.
Ms. Nichols, finish this phrase for me. The world needs...
more confidence, more drive.
The world needs more confidence and more drive. Well, it's evident by the work that you're doing that you're providing that drive for your students, that confidence in your students when they come back and share their joy. And I know this year's graduation is going to be a wonderful time for you as well. And when you talk about the nurturing that you give, it's just as important as the subject. Those are the things that make us know that you're the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year. So thank you for joining us on the show, Ms. Buchanan. Thank you for joining us. And we wish you nothing but the best of success.
Thank you.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
At this time, we'd like to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show the wonderful Mr. Luca Bradley, who's the fantastic Teacher of the Year at Fort Pierce Central High School. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And he's brought along with him my very dear friend, the awesome principal there, Mr. Todd Smith. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure for us to have you on the show, but it's also a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to introduce the wonderful teaching staff for St. Lucie Public Schools to all of our viewers. So, Mr. Bradley, if you would, briefly introduce yourself so that people will begin to know just a little bit more about the fantastic Teacher of the Year at Central High.
Absolutely. So I'm Luca Bradley. I am a U.S. history teacher at Fort Pierce Central High School, which is actually my high school, so it's an honor to be back where I went to high school at. Obviously a different campus nowadays. I left the state of Florida for college, went through a few schools, and now I'm back doing what I wanted to do from a long time. So.
Well, welcome back, and we're always excited when there's someone that is homegrown that comes back to work with the students here. Where did you graduate from? College.
I went to a couple different schools. After high school, I had the opportunity to play college soccer at a couple schools. So I went to Northwestern Virginia to begin with, and then I had a trial in FMU, Florida Memorial, in Miami Gardens, and then I went to play there. And I ended up finishing my bachelor's here locally. Okay. And here we are.
And then Mrs. Smith kind of scooped you right up, right?
It was an interesting story. But I was definitely blessed to have the opportunity.
Cool.
And it worked out.
So you're teaching social
U.S.
studies,
history. Yeah.
U.S. history. What is your favorite part about teaching?
Favorite part of teaching would be, I guess some teachers at times they refer to lower level teachers anyways when a student can read, say in first or second grade. I think for me it's more of the enlightenment moment. When a student, you can see that they got the concept, they understood the continuity and change, they understood that history is important. Like I said, I'm blessed to be able to teach history because that is truly my passion. So I can relate to how when a student really understands a concept, it kind of brightens my day.
So tell me this, with history, facts, times, things were happening in the world, how do you infuse the use of technology in your instruction?
Sure. We are, very, very thankful for the things we have. A projector alone can do a lot of work. When it comes to history, specific documents, images, cartoons, and as you go, into the more recent years, and we have video, and we have technology or types of computers that can do things for us.
So how do you use political cartoons in instruction?
Well, you have to, I believe. Political cartoons tell the story of at least an aspect of the story, and you have to understand a lot of different sides. It's not just a one-way street in history. And when you analyze the cartoons, sometimes they can be touchy or kind of push to limit. But I like to use a technique in which I split the cartoon into 4 sections, and then you look at each section as a student and try to decipher each part of the section with some questions that I provide, and then that kind of wraps up the cartoon, and then you go from there.
Helping students to think for themselves, reason through information. Mr. Smith, introduce yourself just in case there's someone that doesn't know the wonderful Todd Smith.
My name is Todd Smith. I had the pleasure of being the principal at Fort Pierce Central High School for the past 8 years. I had the distinct honor to hire Mr. Bradley to work at Fort Pierce Central High School, and he's been with us, I believe this is his 4th year at Central. And he's been instrumental in changing a stagnant social studies department and bringing it to life.
Mr. Smith, you have an opportunity to see him in action every day. When you walk into Mr. Bradley's classroom, what is it that you hear, see? How does it make you feel?
Well, the first thing I have to do is I have to locate Mr. Bradley because he's in the class, but he's always playing a role. The most fundamental thing you see in Mr. Bradley's class, a lot of people teach history, okay? But his students live history, okay? What's World War II without visiting a concentration camp? Mr. Bradley actually did that, visited concentration camps, and he brings that to life in his classroom. The kids are engaged, and you look for who's controlling the classroom. The discussions permeate through the students, and then Mr. Bradley, as the moderator, talked about political cartoons. That's very instrumental in people voicing an opinion. But the most important thing about that, people need to feel comfortable in that classroom to voice their opinion because everybody has a story, and they all are able to tell a story in Mr. Bradley's class.
Mr. Bradley, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you decide?
I want to say I did. I think as a child, I thought teaching was a really cool thing, or at least I looked at professors and teachers as a very cool person. And later in life, I realized how much that was kind of like a distant dream. I initially thought that I wanted to be a professor in my later years in life. And it came to a moment where in my previous career, I just had enough of it. I saw what I was going into after 8 years. And I said, I need to make that change now, and I went for it. And within a matter of months, I was certified, and I was standing in front of a classroom, and reality hit me.
Over these 4 years, and after reality hit you, over these past 4 years of being in the classroom, now that you've had some time and you've had some time to reflect, think back, do you think that there's a teacher that kind of inspired you when you, especially when you look at what you do and how you instruct every day?
Well, when it comes down to instruction, I don't think so, because I've had a multitude of teachers that have influenced me, and maybe I have grabbed aspects from each one of them. But specifically, Coach Lewis, Calvin Lewis, was basically my father figure in high school. And he influenced me in so many ways that it kind of grew on me that I can do that to other people, you know? And that moment there, it's what it's all about for me. So Calvin Lewis would definitely be the person that influenced me the most.
You know, there's a lot of work that we've done on our framework for quality instruction. When we look at our framework, DQ5 is all about engagement. You kind of alluded to some things earlier, and Mr. Smith did too, about how we engage in students in your room. But how do you purposefully plan and use engagement for instruction in your room?
The engagement in my classroom has to do with the students specifically wanting to learn. So when I focus on planning, I try to make activities that either they will be engaged because of the material, or they have to be engaged because otherwise they're not going to learn. So I kind of base it on having my students kind of grow into wanting to learn. They have to understand what's going on. So with that curiosity, once you spark that, then you can take them anywhere.
As a Teacher of the Year, we will often ask you to have conversations with others. One of those groups could very well be new teachers. What advice would you offer to them?
New teachers, well, I'm relatively new, you know, just 4 years in, but I think a particular thing that I would advise them to do is to take notes from other teachers that have been there a while and try to make sense of it. Because if I would have done that from the very beginning, I would have learned things that didn't have to figure out on my own. Advice comes in many different forms, and you may not understand what a teacher's telling you that's been teaching for 25 years, but a couple years down the road, that may be really good advice. So I would say write everything down that, you know, other teachers are telling you, and it may not matter then, but you'll see what it means later.
What advice would you give to parents to help them ensure that their child is a success?
Well, that's a difficult task. Besides staying on top of them in their grades, communicate with your children, and explain to them the importance of education. That's probably the most important thing a parent can do.
You're growing each year that you're in the classroom. Is there something new or exciting that you're working on or trying this year in your room?
In my room, one of the things that I'm trying right now is I present information to half of the classroom and not the other. And then they are paired. And half of the classroom that got the information needs to teach it to the other half once the information has been retrieved. So they depend on each other to understand whatever topic I'm teaching. And then they together have to answer questions or go on with the topic.
Mrs. Smith, to be the Teacher of the Year, that person is not just locked in their classroom with their students. They're helping the total campus operate. What other activities will we find Mr. Bradley participating in?
Well, the most important role right now is developing the curriculum for United States history, okay, and aligning the curriculum that they develop with state standards. But more importantly, he works with 5 individuals that teach U.S. history, and he's the lead teacher for U.S. history. And it goes back to what Mr. Bradley alluded to earlier, taking notes and learning from what he has from his other teachers, because he had to take a unit, group of teachers that may not have been cohesive at the beginning because they had 5 years experience, 15 years experience, and one even had 44 years experience. So he blended them together, and being very genuine in his approach, was able to create one unified approach for the classroom. He's a mentor for his peers. He's also a mentor for beginning teachers. He's also participated in athletics and coached girls soccer for 2 years.
So, totally involved.
Busy.
Yeah, busy. Mrs. Smith, while we have you up, describe Mr. Bradley using 3 adjectives and tell us why those 3.
I think the first one would be he's passionate, because he wants the students to understand and live history through his eyes, but at the same time experience and make their own judgments. Another thing would be looking at he's genuine. I mean, Mr. Bradley presents himself well, and when he is what you see. There's no false pretenses there. Okay. And the last one would be, he's determined. And I go back to looking at his approach to coaching. There's some times that we played teams that, we should never even been on the field with them. They shut us out. They bit us 10-0. The next time we played them, he was determined that score would not replicate itself. And they beat us 3-1. Okay, so that's what he takes as approach into the classroom. At the same time, people are afraid of an ELC test. Okay, but he's determined to break down those barriers and show them throughout the course of the year that they're prepared for that.
So, Mr. Bradley, when would you say that you first fell in love with teaching?
I thought I was in love with teaching before I stepped into teaching, but I think a quote that we throw around is everyone has a plan until they get hit. And that's when I fell in love with it. The first day, I think, once I saw the challenges and I saw that the plan I had was completely off base, and you're with the students one-on-one, and you realize the potential that you have to be able to touch their minds, to influence them, to change their lives. You may not do it individually, but you may do something that changes the way they think or the way they do things, and that's what I love about it.
So when will you know that you are a success?
Personally, I don't think I will. I'm very hard on myself, so success is a very impressive word. But I think already I have done things that are successful as a teacher, but we just keep carrying on and raising the bar. That's success by the year.
Mr. Smith, you use the words passionate, genuine, and determined. But tell us, what makes Mr. Bradley the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Right now I have to step outside of the role of the principal and put my other hat on, my real job as a parent. I've been blessed to have my daughter participate with Mr. Bradley on the soccer team, and he's taken somebody with a ability and potential and had granted her the opportunity to reach that potential in athletics. And that transitioned into classroom also because my son had the ability, he's in his class for AP US History, and he went in there, and when he went there, didn't have an open mind, but Mr. Bradley opened his doors and was very successful and passed the AP US History exam. So as a parent, we can measure success very simply. I mean, put my children in position to be successful, and they demonstrate it athletically and academically.
Mr. Bradley, tell me this. How do you see yourself impacting students' ability to be career and/or college ready?
Figuring it out. I think I present them with opportunities in which they may not know how to do it, but it's about getting them to understand that you have to figure it out sometimes. Life is not given to you with an outline or a study guide. So I believe that the way I teach my class, it's so difficult at times on purpose because you have to apply yourself. And I think that's the most valuable thing that can take to the college level is to be, responsible for the things that are due and the things that they have to do.
What fuels you every day?
I think it's more of inspiration. I'm inspired by my students. They inspire me to continue, and when you see those changes that I spoke about earlier, of them being enlightened by history, that inspires me to continue.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs...
One word?
No, just finish the phrase. You can finish it however.
The world needs better educators. The world needs inspiration in our children, and the world needs for our youth to be helped differently.
Henry Drummond said, the people who influence you are people who believe in you. It's evident by what you have said and about the personal experiences that Mr. Todd has given to us that you are influencing those students to be a success each and every day. We want to give a special shout out to Calvin Lewis for the role that he played that kind of led you to being an educator as well. Thank you. Congratulations to you. Thank you and Mr. Smith for joining us here on our Teacher of the Year celebration show.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know. Come alive with the forest. The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration, Mr. Gene August, who is the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Fort Pierce Westwood High School. Mr. August, welcome to our show.
Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure to have you. He's brought along with him the dynamic Mr. Joseph Lazeau, who's the fantastic principal, proud principal at Fort Pierce Westwood High School. Welcome, Mr. Lazeau.
Thank you for having me on the show, Dr. Perry.
It is indeed a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to speak with you and to celebrate your selection as the Teacher of the Year, but more so to present all of our Teachers of the Year to our viewers so that they'll know more about the fantastic instructional staff that we have here in St. Lucie Public Schools. And to get us started, Mr. August, would you please introduce yourself to our viewers and let them know the subjects that you teach as well as the grades that you teach?
My name is Gene August. I'm the band director at Fort Pierce Westwood. I teach band and credit retrieval and music appreciation as well as eurythmics.
In band, there are many components of band. Isn't there different kinds of bands?
Yes, sir. We have a jazz band, we have a concert band, marching band, we have a brass ensemble, woodwind ensemble, and we have a percussion ensemble.
And you're responsible for all of that?
Yes, sir.
You're the man for the job?
Yes, sir.
That's why you're the Teacher of the Year. Where did you go to school, Mr. August?
I started school at Bethune-Cookman College, and from there I joined the Marine Corps, and I went to the Naval School of Music. After getting out of the Marine Corps, I went to Florida Memorial College where I finished my degree in jazz studies.
Mm-hmm. In jazz studies, and currently you're studying at?
Currently I am studying at American Band College for directing.
So a lot of music going on in your life, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it safe to say that's your passion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Tell me this, how long have you been teaching at Westwood and how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching at Westwood this is my 3rd year teaching, and I've been teaching for 17 years now.
So what's your favorite part about teaching?
My favorite part about teaching is the students knowing that they are capable of much more success than they've had prior.
So, yeah, you're in band, and you just told me that you have a lot of band classes that I thought I knew. But in this day and time, students come into this world with some form of technology. They're just infused with technology. How do you incorporate the use of technology in your music class?
Well, in the music class, what we're using right now is smart music, which I really enjoy because we can actually give them one-on-one instruction at home. And with that, I can manipulate the program to tell them exactly what I'm looking for. That's one way I give tests because I found that the students have been afraid to actually test in front of me. I don't know if there's a fear there, but when they can actually test without me being there, they tend to do better. The other thing that we do is if the smart music is not working with them, I allow them to make videos and send videos to me, and I'll grade the videos and I give them feedback through email. The same thing, we use tuners, we use metronome. I like using YouTube. It was a thing that we didn't have when I was coming up. I love YouTube because it gives great examples of what each instrument sounds like, and it shows the students what they can actually inspire to be.
Mm-hmm. YouTube, you just dated yourself if they didn't have that when you were going. Mr. Lazeau, introduce yourself to our viewers as well.
Well, my name is Joseph Lazeau. I'm the principal at Fort Pierce Westwood High School. This is my 3rd year in administration, my 1st year as principal at Westwood. I've been in St. Lucie County Public Schools now for 17 years. I started out in the elementary level teaching 5th grade at the famous Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts and worked my way throughout the entire district into where I arrived at a place where I like to call home, which is Westwood.
Tell me this, what high school did you graduate from? And in addition to that, what college did you graduate from?
Ooh, Dr. Perry, you've put me out there.
Yes.
I am a former graduate of Port St. Lucie High School, go Jags, and I graduated from Florida Atlantic University.
We just like for our viewers to know and understand that we have a lot of people that come back to work in our system that actually graduated from our system. That's proof of what's going on, the fantastic, wonderful things of this district that when we have those persons come back, because you know we have been voted one of the best places to work. So thank you for coming back. Mr. August, back to you. Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you find out?
No, I did not know I always wanted to be a teacher, but it was through my band director in high school, after coming back. He was the one actually convinced me to actually go to college. And in helping him out with the program, I realized I had a knack for doing this, in teaching people how to play. It wasn't just playing. They needed help with math. They needed help with English, science. If it was something that I understood, I can actually teach it to them, and it was just enjoyable watching them actually learn and understand.
You said something earlier, and I want to go back to it. With us all being educators, we understand the preparation that we receive in educational programs when we go through school. But you also mentioned that you were in the Marine band at the Marine School of Music. How did that prepare you for what you're helping students experience today?
It gave me more discipline.
The Marines will do that.
Yes, sir. There was a lot of discipline there. There was a lot of focus. There was a more in-depth understanding of what we should be doing and what our goals should be.
And you're talking about as a musician, the discipline and focus as a musician.
Discipline as a musician, as a person. Understanding that being a musician is not just who you are. Because in the Marine Corps, because I was a musician, it wasn't not my first job. My first job was a rifleman, and they made me realize that I was more of a part of something, not just a part of myself and what I wanted to be. I was a part of a whole.
Tell me a little bit more about that band director that inspired you to be a teacher.
He was very different. I've never had an instructor like him before, or since, really. He actually he knew how to motivate every single student in the band, every single student. And he motivated us each differently. Mine was he would tell me that I couldn't do it. And because he told me I couldn't do it, I had to prove him that I could. You cannot tell me that I can't. And that just motivated me. Everything to me was a challenge. I wasn't looking for the glory. I just wanted to say, I can do it. Don't tell me that I can't.
And what's his name?
Mr. Gibbs.
Mr. Gibbs.
Mr. Leroy Gibbs.
So as a teacher of the year, Mr. August, what advice would you give to a new teacher?
Find a mentor. Find a mentor and understand what they are actually doing, and to be yourself. Because if you're not yourself, the students pick it up on it real quick. You can find all the advice from everybody else, but if you're not acting contrary to who you are, the students know it, and they don't respect it.
Mr. Lazo, you have the opportunity to visit Mr. August on a regular basis, daily basis. When you go into the band room, what is it that you hear? What is it that you see? How does it make you feel?
I'll have to use the cliche that one sound from the movie Drumline, because that's what you hear coming from the students, is that perfect sound. Where I had an opportunity to go into Mr. August's classroom, and he was instructing the kids in preparation for the Music Performance Assessment Awards that we are now revitalized and have the superior ratings because under Mr. August's passion and instructional and the way he prepares his students to perform. And that's outstanding. I was in the classroom and I had an opportunity to sit there for a few moments, and to me, it sounded perfect. It sounded right. I guess I'm tone deaf, as my wife would say, but that's not the case. But Mr. August was able to pinpoint exactly where a student was off tune, and he stopped the whole entire practice at that moment to help that student in understanding where he went wrong and corrected him in that regard, and then brought the whole ensemble back together for just a performance that was outstanding.
Tell me this. If you had to choose 3 words, 3 adjectives that described Mr. August, what would those 3 be and why?
I would have to use a master, because he is a master at his craft, not just in teaching, but in challenging students and motivating them to do above and beyond what they're capable of. The same way that his band director, Mr. Gibbs, did with him. I believe he's starting to instill that in our students as well. He is a creator. And the reason why I use creator is because he has grown a band program upon my arrival at Westwood, had about 15 to 12 students to say the max. Now we have a band of 60 students at most, and steadily increasing in that aspect as well. And then I would say influence. He's a major influence, not just to the students, but also to the faculty and staff of Fort Pierce Westwood High School. He's a true pleasure and delight to work with. Very professional, very manable. I believe he earned that from the Marine Corps work that he did there. But that's the discipline that he brings to Fort Pierce Westwood High School, and that's what we appreciate him and him honoring Westwood as the Teacher of the Year.
Tell me this, Mr. Lizzo. We know as the band director, there's a lot that's going on that he's naturally involved with because of band. But outside of band, what else is he involved in that helps the school operate?
Well, Mr. August shared it with you. He's our credit retrieval lab manager, is a role that is very vital in helping students recover courses that they possibly failed at some point in time, and they're trying to recoup that credit back for their graduation. And Mr. August, I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, Mr. August, I need you to take one for the team. You have an open period here in the building of the master schedule last year, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, well, you have an open period. How could you help me, but also not help me, but help the school? So this is him stepping outside of his own comfort zone, and he says, whatever I can do to make the school better, Mr. Lizzo, put me in, I'll do it.
Mr. August, when will you know that you're a success? 17 years later, when will you know that you are a success?
I couldn't really answer that question because I don't think about when I'm a success. I look for the success of my students. Watching them graduate, watching them achieve their goals, graduating from college. That alone is what I need.
How do you see yourself in the band room, the music room, with all of the courses that you teach, preparing your students to be career and or college ready?
I constantly talk about it. I don't talk about band as a career. If they want to be a band director, fine, I'm fine with that. But I talk to music as a vehicle for them to get a scholarship, to get into college. It's a vehicle that helps them understand how to treat each other. It's a way to understand how to deal with tough situations that they have with each other, life situations. How to overcome the problems that they have in their lives. It's not just about the music, but it's about the student overall. Which, if they're failing in the other classes, I've canceled rehearsals. I'm walking to rehearsal, and they're telling me, Mr. August, I got a lot of homework. Okay, well, for the next 2 or 3 hours, everybody, you're doing homework. It's more important for them to get their education than for me to get a superior at festival. It's more about them than it is about me.
Tell me this, Mr. August. What is it that fuels you?
I would like to say my faith, my family, my students. Their success fuels me. When they're not successful, when they're hurting, it drives something in me to want to find out how I can stop that hurting. Even if I can't, I try. I've had rehearsals where one student just couldn't actually focus. He was just gone. I would leave the rehearsal and just talk to that one student because his well-being is more important to me. The faculty at Westwood is, bar none, one of the greatest faculties I've ever seen. To hear the conversations about how can we reach the students, the earnest and the invested time that we all spend trying to find the success that we can for every single student at that school. It just motivates you to want to do more.
Mr. Lizzo, in 30 seconds, tell me, what makes Mr. August the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
The selection from our schools to select Mr. August as the Westwood's Teacher of the Year is outstanding. Candidate that I will go to bat with each and every day with. I will go to war with as well. He shared with you some of the insights of what drives his passion. When I think about differentiating instruction, I think about Mr. August and how he can pinpoint exactly where a student is having difficulty, not just in their music preparation, but also their academics as well. He shared with you, the audience, you, Dr. Perry, why he is the best candidate as Teacher of the Year, not just for Westwood, but for the entire county.
Mr. August, finish this phrase for me. The world needs
to support education more.
To support education more. Mr. August, we talked about your passion earlier, and I want to leave you with these words. There is no more noble profession than teaching. A great teacher is a great artist, but his medium is not canvas, but the human soul. And your passion is evident about who you are, but also what you're giving to our students. So congratulations on your selection as the Fort Pierce Westwood High School Teacher of the Year. Mr. Lazo, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Best wishes to you all for a successful school year.
Thank you, sir.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show the wonderful Miss Valerie Foreman, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Rivers Edge Elementary School. Welcome, Miss Foreman.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. She's brought along with her the very dynamic, the wonderful Miss Jennifer Ingersoll, who's the assistant principal at Rivers Edge. Miss Ingersoll, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
It is a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to talk with all of the persons that are representing their schools as the Teacher of the Year. We know and we understand that you are reflective of the entire teaching field that we have here in St. Lucie Public Schools, and it just gives us an opportunity, one, to share with the public, but also celebrate you and the great work that you're doing with and for students. Give us a little bit about your background, Ms. Foreman, and let us know what grades you're teaching and what you're involved in right now.
Well, my name is Valerie Foreman. I'm proudly a first-generation graduate. I got my bachelor's degree from Florida Atlantic University in elementary education. I just recently, in May, completed my master's degree from American College of Education. And I presently have a very unique opportunity, and that is that I serve at Rivers Edge as a math coach and a 5th grade math science teacher.
What did you do before you became the math coach?
I taught 5th grade math science all day, which I absolutely love. There's nothing better than being able to teach what you love.
So tell me, what is it like being the coach for those teachers and students that you previously worked with and for?
I have to say that it's a pretty incredible opportunity in that I have this opportunity to practice what it is that I tell the teachers to do. I'm able to take things into my classroom and then help other teachers to do them as well. But I also have the opportunity to learn from the teachers, and so we learn together, and then we help the students together to have those really aha moments in learning more difficult concepts.
And how long have you been teaching?
8 years.
All at Rivers Edge?
All at Rivers Edge.
So in the 8 years that you have been at Rivers Edge and that you have been teaching, we grow, we learn, we develop. What has become your favorite part of being a teacher?
Oh, my favorite part of being a teacher is definitely the relationships. Whether it's a student inviting me to go see one of their basketball games or them sharing a really intimate moment in their life, it really is in those moments that it opens them up to learning.
Ms. Ingersoll, just in case somebody does not know who the wonderful Jennifer Ingersoll is, would you introduce yourself as well to our viewers?
Jennifer Ingersoll. I've been at Rivers Edge for this is my 4th year there. I served my 1st year as a math coach, so that's something that Ms. Foreman and I have in common. Prior to that, I was at Fairlawn Elementary. I taught there for several years. But So for the last couple of years, I've then been the assistant principal at Rivers Edge. It's been a really wonderful experience getting to know those teachers and working with them.
Unique experience because you know Ms. Foreman as the in-class classroom teacher,
right,
but also in a coaching role that you also served in. So when you watch Ms. Foreman coaching and or teaching, what is it that you hear, see? How does it make you feel?
I think really and truly one of the wonderful things, aspects of Ms. Foreman is that she lives what she teaches. If she's teaching other fellow teachers strategies, things that work, it's because they've worked as she's used them in her own classroom. She really utilizes a lot of dynamic strategies, getting students to talk about what they're thinking about. You know, when you go into her classroom, you hear Ms. Foreman talking, obviously, but what you really hear is the students talking. They explain what they're thinking, how they came up to that answer, and that sort of conversation amongst 10, 11-year-olds, that's powerful. That's powerful for their learning and then for their understanding of what they're doing.
Ms. Foreman, I heard you say first generation.
Yes.
So tell me, why a teacher? Why are you a teacher?
Honestly, I really just wanted to inspire children in the same way that I was inspired as a child and a student.
Who inspired you?
I would definitely say my kindergarten teacher, who was also my first grade teacher, because at a young age, she really did make learning fun and hands-on and was able to instill that love for learning in me.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher, or when did you really decide?
I didn't always know. I think it was in high school in those last couple years when I was sort of on this conquest to discover who I was. And it was through that self-reflection that I realized that for every critical moment in my life, there was always an educator cheering me along. And that's when I discovered that every moment in my life has led me to where I was always meant to be.
Okay, you've been at Rivers Edge for 8 years. Very different person today than you were 8 years ago. The learning, the discovery, the new knowledge, the new opportunities, the experiences that you've had. When can you honestly say that as a teacher you actually fell in love with teaching?
Oh, that was my first year in teaching. I taught first grade at the time, and from the beginning of the year, seeing those beginning readers and then turning into emerging readers and then fluent readers, and knowing that I had a part in that, seeing that development was a pretty incredible thing.
What other activities, Ms. Ingersoll, would we find Ms. Foreman involved in? Because we know that to be the teacher of the year, you just can't be locked into your classroom. You've got to be doing those things that actually make the school work. So what other activities will we find her involved in?
Well, even prior to being math coach, she's served as a leader of her grade team. She's served on the faculty council. Of course, this year as a math coach, she's definitely serving on the leadership team, a part of the developing the school goals and coming up with strategies of how we're going to attain them. Beyond that, she runs our student council. She leads that, which she actually initiated at Rivers Edge. We did not have a student council prior to last year. Through student council and through her serving on our community connections committee, she also works with the community. She does a food drive through student council, and they have, I don't even know how many pounds of food this year that we have donated back out to the community that we were able to raise. And then any given evening that we have parents and students on campus, Ms. Foreman is there, usually taking a leadership role in teaching parents on how to better work with their kids at night on their math homework. Talking to them about what the science fair is and how they can help their students better prepare for the science fair, and then again what that means to them, and coming and looking at all the science fair projects that the students have done throughout the school. So definitely an integral part of the Rivers Edge family, but in also making sure that as Rivers Edge we are part of the community and we're giving back.
Ms. Foreman, we know that Rivers Edge is a school with a heart of gold. So in that role as the teacher of the year for that school, you are often called upon to talk with new teachers, what advice would you offer them?
It's funny that you asked that because I am a facilitator for our new educator support team. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to new teachers is to don't be afraid to ask questions, to try new things, and to make mistakes. Because at the end of the day, we just reflect and we learn from each thing and we try again tomorrow.
Tell me this, you're also speaking with parents to help them ensure that their students are a success. What advice do you offer?
Reach out. It's that constant stream of communication, whether it's you asking for support or what you can do to enrich, or just sharing a special moment or an area of concern. It's that constant stream of communication that lets your child know that you are fully invested in your child's education.
Ms. Foreman, this year you're serving as the coach. What's new and exciting in the work that you're doing with teachers and with students?
Actually, something new and exciting that I'm doing this year, Ms. Ingersoll mentioned that I'm a part of the Community Connections and Student Council. Something new and exciting that we did this year had to do with our food drive, where we sent a letter home to parents and we asked for preferred food items. And then the holiday rolled around and we were able to provide families with complete meal packages with all the traditional foods, including gift cards so that they could go out and purchase. And with that, we had families come pick up and we did some home deliveries. And it was really powerful to see the families' reactions. We had families who told us they've never celebrated Thanksgiving before, and now they had that opportunity. And then we were able to take remaining goods and donate it back to the community.
Let's talk a little bit more, Ms. Foreman, about teaching and learning. When we look at our framework for quality instruction, we know that DQ5 is all about engagement. How do you plan for and help teachers plan for the use of engagement to deliver better instruction?
Boy, engagement is really important in learning. We do a lot of different things. We try to do different ways to respond. We do vote with your feet. We'll do take off, touch down. We do something a little bit more non-traditional, and that is that we do scoot cards around the room. So around the room, I'll have questions posted at various locations, and instead of the students completing questions in a book, they're able to move around the room and complete those same questions, but have that movement that they need to keep their brains moving.
Ms. Ingersoll, if you had to describe Ms. Foreman using 3 adjectives, what would they be and why?
I think Ms. Foreman's dedicated. Her dedication to the profession of teaching, she's already told you she's just finished her master's degree. And that's, again, we all know it's one thing to go through school when you're in your early 20s, and that is your entire job, is your academics and learning. To go back to school in the middle of working a full-time job and make that high GPA and earn a master's degree and continue to want to seek to know and to understand and be better at your craft, that's dedication. She's certainly a role model. She's certainly somebody that we intentionally put in front of new teachers so that they can see, that yes, what you do in the classroom is vital and important, but what you do for the school and your community, that's a part of the education, what we do in education as well. We do all things, whatever it takes, really, to make sure our students are succeeding. And so she's a role model for that sort of mindset. And she's very creative. She kind of told you a few of the things that she does for student engagement. When you walk into her classroom, it's impressive. It's impressive to see what the kids are doing, what they're talking about, and how it's not like another classroom on campus. It's creative, and that's attributed to her.
Role model, dedicated, and creative. In all of that, we know that those are characteristics of a great teacher and a person that's selected as Teacher of the Year. But in the roles that you play, how do you see yourself impacting students' ability to be college and or career ready?
It's kind of funny because we actually talk about college and career readiness on a regular basis in my classroom. I start a lot of units with, this is what I know you learned in 4th grade. This is what we're learning today in 5th grade because here's where we need to go. So we talk about how every day is a stepping stone into tomorrow. We're not all of a sudden going to get into high school and we're ready for college and career. And one of the things that I do when I'm trying to drive home a really critical point is we'll chant, and I'll say, what are we getting ready for? And they chant back, college and career.
College and career, great, great. So, first generation, college graduate, math coach, teacher. This energy and enthusiasm is infectious. It's jumping right out of you, right into the studio. What is it that fuels you?
The aha moments, whether it's I'm working with students in my own classroom or I'm working with teachers or students within those teachers' classrooms. It's those aha moments when students are working in that healthy struggle through something difficult, and through me probing them and asking them to explain, when they're able to identify their own errors through reasoning, it's a pretty powerful thing.
Ms. Ingersoll, what makes Ms. Foreman the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think really what she does in her classroom alone, as I said, it's unique. You walk in there, it's a dynamic room to be in. That alone makes her a standout candidate when you factor in all the other things that she does. Teaching is hard work. When you combine that with everything else she does, student council, coaching, leadership team, giving back to the community, parent events at night, all of that together, she is outstanding as a Teacher of the Year, absolutely.
Finish this phrase for me, Ms. Foreman. The world needs
compassion and understanding. Not just in the classroom, but really globally. We live in a very diverse society, and when we approach each other with compassion and understanding, we open ourselves up to many opportunities.
Everett Garrison said, a teacher is a compass that activates the magnets of curiosity, knowledge, and wisdom in their pupils. It's evident that that's what's happening from the passion that you exude in the studio with us today. It's reflective of the School with the Heart of Gold, that you really have one as well. Thank you, Ms. Ingersoll, Ms. Foreman, for sharing with us and letting us celebrate you and the wonderful work that you and teachers like you are doing each and every day here in St. Lucie Public Schools. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
At this time, we'd like to welcome the fantastic Miss Lila.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I knew it, but it wasn't coming out. I looked great.
I have a well, let's see you make it still better, because you know we might.
Okay, go ahead.
At this time, we'd like to welcome the fantastic Miss Lila Innocent to our Teacher of the Year celebration show. She is the wonderful Teacher of the Year for Lakewood Park Elementary School. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And she's brought along with her the fantastic Miss Diane Young, who's the awesome principal at Lakewood Park. Miss Young, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
We are so excited to have this opportunity to speak with all of those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for their schools. We know that we have a fantastic teaching staff here in St. Lucie Public Schools, but it gives us a chance to show off and showcase those wonderful people and introduce them to our viewers. So at this time, Ms. Innocent, I want to ask you if you would briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay, my name is Lila Innocent. I teach 4th grade at Lakewood Park Elementary School. I teach reading, English language arts is the subject that I teach, and
How long have you been at Lakewood Park?
I've been at Lakewood Park since 2001.
Okay, 2001. Tell me what's so special about being the fantastic teacher at Lakewood Park.
Oh my gosh.
How is life there with Mrs. Young and the staff there? What's so special about?
Well, I think what makes it so special, definitely what does make it so special, is the diversity within the staff, the diversity within the students, and the challenges that that come along every day.
So you've been there for a while. What has grown or become your favorite part of teaching?
Definitely, I would say the students are my favorite part of teaching. I think how they're changing, maybe a little bit how the teaching as a whole is changing, and the fact that I have to change with it. And
so in your classroom, we know that these students are basically born with understanding and the use of technology. How do you plan for and infuse technology in your daily instruction?
I use the CAV system every day. I know I start the morning off with a little morning announcement. It's also a part of my classroom management where students will look at the morning board and they'll read it and they'll follow the morning board. I also use it a lot within my overall instruction where I'll put a question on the screen and where they will have to think of the answer, discuss the question that's being presented, and also within my planning, use a lot of technology within my planning.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you discover?
I can't remember always wanting to have known, but I must have always wanted to have known because I remember very clearly from a young age on always playing school when my cousins would come over and so on, and I was always the teacher.
You're always the teacher?
I was always the teacher.
When you reflect back, when you think back, do you think that there might have been one teacher or a group of teachers that actually inspired you to become an educator?
There may have been one teacher. The more I think about it, I think there may have been my 5th grade teacher, may have definitely inspired me and may somewhat be the teacher that, without realizing, I'm reflecting in my teaching. Very interactive, very hands-on, very much involved with students, our social life, and yeah, so I do believe that teacher probably.
Ms. Young, let's invite you to this conversation.
Okay.
Introduce yourself to our viewers as well so they know who the dynamic principal is of Lakewood Park.
Okay, I'm Diane Young. I am the very proud principal of Lakewood Park Elementary, and very happy to be here with Mrs. Innocent today because she is an excellent example of what St. Lucie County does best in our classrooms every single day.
Great, great. Now, since you're there with her every day and you can see what happens in the classrooms each and every day, tell us, when you visit Miss Innocent's class, what is it that you see, hear? Maybe how does it make you feel?
I know that going into her classroom, I see students that are very engaged in their learning. One of the things that stands out to me is her ability to question students and her ability to draw them into discussions with one another and with her as well. If students don't seem to quite understand, her questioning leads them there, and it's in a very nurturing and welcoming environment, and I've watched students who maybe have been a little shy in the past, I've watched them start to come out as they begin to feel confidence in her classroom.
Miss Innocent, as a teacher of the year for Lakewood Park, and possibly for the school district, you will be called upon many times to give advice, to talk to motivate new teachers. What would you say to them?
Well, I think new teachers have been called to teaching for a very specific reason. So I think new teachers should not underestimate what they bring to the table. Whatever it is that motivated them, whatever it is that called them to be a teacher, that's, I think, what they need to remember, and that's what they need to rely on and pull on as a teacher.
In addition to those conversations that you may use to motivate new teachers, we have to often have conferences with parents. We have to share with parents. We have parent nights and those kinds of things that involve parents in education for our students. What advice would you give to parents to help them ensure that their child is a success?
I think it's important to communicate to parents, to bring across to them that this is a partnership, that they're maybe not a teacher in the sense of the paperwork being a teacher, but they are a teacher, that they work together with the teacher. I think it's important to show that you're open to communication and that together we should work together to do the best for a child, that they're just as important as the teacher, their role.
When we think about our framework for quality instruction, we understand that DQ5 is about engagement, and we are purposefully planning engagement in our instruction. How do you purposefully plan engagement?
I very purposefully and intentionally set up my classroom is set up in tables, so I very purposely put the students together in their table settings. I do a lot of peer work where they work with each other, where they seek out each other. I try to make sure that they know which student would be the best student for them at any given time to work with and to help them, and I engage them or find that is engaging, an engaging way of learning, and also in my lesson planning and my preparation and so on, make sure that there's always a lot of work prepared so that there's always something for them to be doing.
In our conversations, Ms. Young, we find that the person that is selected as the Teacher of the Year is heavily involved in the total aspect, the total operation of the school. Besides what is happening in Ms. Innocent's dynamic classroom, what else is she involved in that makes the school tick?
Okay. One of the very innovative ideas that she had is she came to me earlier this year and she said, you know, I have a really heart for our ESOL students. And that has been her background, actually starting as a para and moving into the teaching field. And so she said, I really have a heart for this and I would really like to get involved in a lab situation. And so because of her willingness, we've been able to open an ESOL lab at our school this year. We have parents that are coming, and with that, not only are our parents learning the English language, but what I'm noticing is that relationship with the parents and the school is opening, because whereas we may not communicate clearly by language, we now know each other as friend. And so we have a small baby all the way up coming with parents, and students are having tutorial and they're building relationships, and I think it's such an important foundation for our students to be able to do that. And that really was her initiative, and took that on. And so outside of the four walls of her classroom, she has a great influence across our campus and our community.
Ms. Innocent, you started as a para and now you're teaching at Lakewood Park. When did you actually, deliberately, first fall in love with teaching?
Before coming to the United States, I was in Haiti for 12 years, and I was very, very involved in Haiti, starting new schools in the rural areas where there were absolutely no schools. And I think it was that experience actually that just drew me into teaching. Some of the schools that were way up in the mountains, they were children as young as 14, or as old as 14, I should say, coming to school for the first day, coming to register. And that's probably something one will never forget. The look on their faces, like no shame, just total excitement that they have the opportunity to come to school. And I think that experience made me see a value in education that's way beyond just the book and the books.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Ms. Young, describe this fantastic Teacher of the Year using 3 adjectives and tell me why those 3.
Well, 3 is going to be hard because there are so many, okay? I mentioned innovative before, and I say that because in her classroom, she constantly is reflecting on her teaching and how she can change or even influence her team. Enthusiastic is probably not even the best word to describe the way she brings forth not only her love of learning, her deep love of learning, but also just the themes in her room and what she can do to excite those around her. And finally, I'd say dedication, because dedication to our students, to our staff, to our families, and even beyond that into the community for needs, even outside, still working with Haitians, still working with other avenues to take education and learning to children in all places. So I could go on, but there are so many adjectives, but I do really appreciate her as a teacher, not only just for her students in the classroom, but for anyone who's willing to learn.
Innovative, enthusiastic, and dedicated. It leads to your selection as a Teacher of the Year, the person that the school has the confidence in to represent them. When will you know that you are a success?
I maybe will never know. I mean, I do believe that you do get little glimpses where you feel like the effort that you're putting forth has had successes, definitely. So maybe it's those little successes that...
The little glimpses.
Exactly, yeah.
Tell me this, in elementary school, it's quite a time before students actually start their careers or matriculate at college. How do you see what you do preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Well, I'm very intentional about speaking that message to the students, even in 4th grade, very intentional, in letting them know that what they're doing today is just a small part of what they're working toward. also very much I say that I don't see them sitting in their desks as fourth graders. I say I see potential, you know, potential different careers of people at their tables.
Tell me, each and every day that you go into your fourth grade classroom, what is it that fuels you to do all of those things and be those things for those students?
I think it would probably be the students themselves. I would think. Just, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Young, tell me, what makes Ms. Innocent the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think that, first of all, she's got many leadership abilities and talents, but also the ability to inspire her fellow teachers. I think as a Teacher of the Year, you represent teachers. You're really out there in the community to excite people about our career, about the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. And she doesn't just talk about it, she does them. She walks the walk. She's not just talking the talk.
So is there anything that we haven't spoken about with you, Ms. Young, that you want to tell us about Ms. Innocent?
I know this. I know that from the time that I've gone to Lakewood Park, she has been one of those leaders on campus that's always been a willing person to step forward no matter what the situation is. And as far as leadership, she's been part of our district cohort to go through that leadership program to learn and to grow deeper. And I know that she's probably one of the most reflective teachers I know, constantly wanting to learn and build on her own skills. So that makes me excited as a principal to be able to work with teachers like Mrs. Innocent.
Ms. Innocent, finish this phrase for me. I believe
that students, to a large degree, hold the key to their own learning.
One more phrase for you. The world needs.
The world needs to provide an intentional purpose for education, not only for higher education, but even students sitting in fourth grade, a purpose to why they're there, an intentional purpose, the motivation.
Innovative, enthusiastic, dedicated. I don't know if you remember, but Ms. Young also slipped in reflective. She was just giving me some additional adjectives. But that just helps paint the picture and help us better know why you have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for Lakewood Park Elementary. Leave you with these words by Mark Van Doren when he said, "The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery," and it's evident that those students in your fourth grade classrooms are having that discovery moments each and every day. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year. Ms. Young, thank you for coming. Ms. Innocent, thank you for sharing with us as we celebrate the wonderful teaching field staff here in St. Lucie Public Schools.
Thank you.